Thank you so much for this privilege. I don't take it for granted. I appreciate your
All right.
I
Well,
I appreciate that. I appreciate your communication. It's so smooth. Thank you so much. You don't know me from anywhere. My platform is not going to add probably anything, but still, I appreciate everything, sir. It's a great privilege.
yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. You're
I would
welcome.
love
Good
to give
evening.
a brief introduction about myself, sir. Whenever I do
Okay.
this, I always love to let people know a little about what I'm doing about myself. My name is Tmod Mowale. I'm a podcaster. I'm very enthusiastic about media and I'm creatives. And I run this platform based on my passion to see people becoming what they want to do. I believe one of the ways we can mentor young guys is to tell them the story of how we became and what we are. This can inspire them. This can enlighten them in a way to
Mhm.
see the light. So this is why I've been committed to this vision over and over. And here we are today, sir. God has helped with a little I've been able to achieve. And I also want to appreciate this privilege also to have you share your story on this platform. Thank you so much, sir. So
Welcome.
your profile is robust, is so big. We have done a lot of big things. We have achieved a lot of things. And the first thing I would want to ask you is how did you discover passion? Was it an easy task for you? Was it something that was so easy? Uh, how did you discover it?
Okay. For me, I think my story is a little weird in the sense that for a very long, you know how musicians will say I've been singing in my mother's womb and that kind of thing.
Yes,
Not to toot my home, but my earliest of memories involved me like just loving to watch TV and cartoons a lot. Then going to take like my school notes and tearing out the characters, try to sketch them, and then now acting my own version of what I had seen, right? So for a very long time, that time when the 1980s Voltron, Defender of the Universe, used to air on TV, I was always like drawing them out and all those kind of things. My sisters even had a thing of saying that anytime they were looking for me in the house and they could not find me, they would just go and meet my mom and be like, "Oh, mommy, Junior," because they also called me Junior in the house. They'd be like, "Junior is drawing Voltron." So everyone knew that I was kind of creative in that light. But then my elder sister, she used to read a lot. She was a voracious reader. So after a while, I developed interest in the books I always used to find out, and I was like, okay, you know what, let me just borrow this book I read. And that was how I started reading books. I remember when I was in primary five, we had like a book project. My elder sister had a book project where she had me as her sketch artist. So you know how you just tell like story of Tortoise and the Lion or something like that, and then there'll be like an illustration for it, right?
yes, sir.
I was the one who was drawing that for her. Then I was like, okay, you know what? If I can draw this for her, why don't I start my own book project? So I did my own by myself, and she became angry with me and fired me, quote unquote, from being her sketch artist. But then when I was in SS1, she also got me my first comic book and introduced me to Chronicle of Narnia and all this kind of stuff. So I was always watching this, and then at the time, I was also a children's teacher in church. I was in drama unit, and then I started writing plays. And I knew that when I was going into the university, it was something I wanted to do as a service to God when I got into the university. So I just took that into the university. The fellowship I joined in school, Christian Fellowship International, I was in charge of like writing scripts for them. I was in drama unit, directing drama, directing plays, managing sets, managing locations, getting props ready, props master. So I was doing all those things. And then I was also acting a little bit. And then after I finished school, I had like my first solo production where I was like, you know what, let me not serve yet. Let me try to start up a production on my own. That was like a litmus test for me because the successes of that would have determined which direction my career would go. As luck would have it, unfortunately, it was not very successful financially. It was a good project, people came for it, but then the money didn't go far in terms of like the things I needed to set it up. So I realized I couldn't be doing stage drama, especially if I wanted to sustain a family and for the kind of dreams I had. And that coincided with when I moved to Lagos for my youth service. And then post-it service. I just started writing stuff. I think I submitted a script sample to Victor Sanchez Agawa, who then took me under his wings and became my mentor, introduced me to my first writer's room workshop, and then that's how I started developing for him. A friend of mine also introduced me to James Omokwe, and then I started writing stuff for him, and that was literally how I got started, like professionally. In a nutshell, this is a highly summarized version, but yeah, that's how my journey from childbirth to the present, kind of.
I said I don't know what you studied in school. I'll probably share a bit about that for us.
Oh, I studied chemical engineering. I studied chemical engineering,
Wow. Uh, was it that you were not
and I
sure?
graduated with a two.
I want
No,
to.
so
Was it that you were not
okay,
sure
so
of? Why did you go for art or theater? Was it that you were scared
oh,
that what happened? Because it happens to a lot of us.
no,
A lot of us.
yeah,
So
yeah.
what was your
So,
own
so
story, sir?
for me, in secondary school, I was one of the best students in secondary school, right?
Okay.
And I was in science class. And at the time, I could not tell my dad that, oh, I wanted to go to school to go and read what theater art. Do you understand? Like, considering the fact that, oh, high flyers and all that. And then I also genuinely love chemistry a lot, and maths and then biology, but I didn't want to read medicine because 6 years, and I didn't think I was interested in that because medicine had no mathematics. My favorite courses were basically math and chemistry, and that was why I was like, okay, you know what? Let me do this combo and read chemical engineering. And then that was how I read chemical engineering in school. I graduated with a 2-1, but I realized that while I was in school, the Nigerian education system did me a number because it was like I was only just studying to pass exams. I would read hard, cram formulas, and after each exam, I would just literally forget everything during the holidays. And then I started doing a new semester. So I was like, you know what? I also felt very convinced that if I was doing um script writing, directing, and the rest, I could be literally one of the best in the country when all is said and done. But for engineering, I was like, I'll be one of the numerous engineers, right? And then something I forgot to mention, when I came to Lagos, it wasn't just easy. I didn't just meet all those my mentors and collaborators I just mentioned. It wasn't quite easy. After I finished my service, there was this period where I had like a 1 month hiatus, no job and stuff was coming. So I was deciding that okay, you know what? Why don't I just go to Benin? Because I grew up in Benin City. Why don't I just go back to my parents' house and then maybe while I'm there, I keep applying for jobs, and then one of them will click, and then I would start work and stuff. But the week I was trying to determine whether I should move back to Benin City, I got a job offer as a writer for a content production company, right? And that was one of my first early confirmations that God was really on this journey. I worked there for about 4 months before certain things made me submit my resignation letter. And then this was around like 2000, towards the end of 2013. I submitted my resignation letter for at the end of October. Coincidentally, I got paid salary for November and I got paid salary for December, including Christmas bonus. That was God's way of telling me, hold this money because the next year is going to be tough. So 2014 was literally one of my hardest years because money wasn't coming in. I was out of a job and I was literally like just waiting. This was before I know this, before I had mentioned earlier. And then my dad also wanted me to study, go for my master's in Imperial College London. But I told him the same thing. I just said like engineering wasn't really what I wanted to do because I had a passion for this thing, and I knew that
Mm.
let me just stay here, right? And then around April 2014, the word of God came very strongly. There was a pastor that didn't even know me that went for like a birthday parties of one of my friends. I didn't even go for the birthday party because I was at home. And then the pastor told that my friend to tell me that this was what God was saying concerning my life, concerning creation, concerning dramas, and concerning writing. I didn't even know that anybody in church now was doing that kind of thing, which was weird. So when he came with me with that, I realized that you know what? Yeah, God, this is literally destiny for me. And then of course, that would bolster my self-confidence to remain on the path. I know not a lot of people have that kind of experience, but for me, writing is very spiritual for me because it's a tool for me to cause change, to also uplift voices and to show people a better way of living their lives or doing things. So the word of God came very strongly, and yeah, I stayed on the path, and then I met these people that I met, and then that was how I got into my first MS position as a scriptwriter. Subsequently, I rose along the ranks. The word of God came strongly again. I think this was 2019 when I was having like some creative, what's the word
God
called
loves
now?
you so
Like
much.
creative downtime. And then you get. So that's why sometimes I kind of feel like my story, because I know I wish it were easy because not everyone
Mm.
gets to hear the confirmation very clearly that this is what you are meant to be doing.
Yes,
So
sir.
when the word of God came the
Mm.
second time again from someone in church that literally did not know what I was doing, that I was a writer, but she wrote this prophecy out on a piece of paper and showed me, and this is what God said that and gave me the spirit of XYZ and blah 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 blah. I was like, okay, you know what? This is what I needed to be doing. So from that, I've been able to like chat the course of my life, and then it wasn't. It was hard initially, but right now, I do not regret leaving chemical engineering for this at all. Not one bit.
I am blessed. I am blessed. Seriously. One of the things I try to do is when I get to sit with great men like you, before I even launch it out, literally before I release my episodes, it takes weeks. And in those weeks, I tend to listen to it over and over again because I think uh, there's a part in the scripture where Paul was saying it doesn't be the one that saves and he's not saved, something around that. I don't want to be the one that lead people to discovering and be inspired.
Yes, to this source, and then you yourself, you are not being
I've left.
transformed by the things that you are listening to.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
you are so loud about God. You are so loud about it. Even that was the first thing I saw your IG page, God engine. When we were having the conversation, you're like you couldn't make it because you had a church function. I was discussing with my friend. I was like,
yeah. That was it.
why is it so loud about church or about God? You could have just told me it will be with a function. Why did they have to put church? And I was just reminiscing, and that was the question that one of the questions I was going to ask. And even before I got there, we were already speaking about your God. And do you think this is one of the were you intentional? Do you think did God come and meet you, or you went to meet God and God show me way?
So life is such a funny experience because the way God um treats his children, like it's not a one cat fits all thing. The way I work with God is different from the way you work with God, which is different from the way pastors work with God. So my own is very weird. I suspect that there is there is I suspect that this mission that has been given to me to do is heavy. And that is why he is very present like this. And I've dragged my ear for him and I've told him that see God, I'm a baby boy, yo. I don't want to do soldier work for ministry.
Yes.
Give me front desk work. Let me be pushing fire. Let me be just writing people's name in form and all this. I don't want day front lines and all this kind of stuff. So
Mm,
um
mm,
if you because I feel like because right from it's weird that right from when I was a child, I knew that this was what I wanted to do.
mm,
Like I explained, that those times when I was cutting papers and the rest, I
yeah.
didn't see myself doing any other thing, even if I didn't know what it was called. I just knew that oh, I want to be making cartoons or I want to be making films or gisting films with people. Like I didn't know it was like maybe it's called screenwriting, it was directing, it was production and all these things, right? But like I said, like my earliest of memories as a human being, like this is literally it. It has consumed me, right? And then I feel very strongly that that is purpose for me. And since I have found purpose in that, I have to proceed relentlessly. And then the only person who gave me this purpose, it cannot be coincidence. Like it doesn't just happen by chance. There has to be someone divine who gave me this mission. And then he has spoken twice through people that I do not even know about, right? So like I said, that is one of the reasons why. And it's not as if the funny thing is, it's not as if, oh, now me pray pass, so like I'm very overly spiritual and the rest. So this year, one of my priorities set is that okay, you know what, my work with God will be a lot better because I know that with great power comes great responsibility, right? So I'm like actively wanting to work out my salvation in fear and trembling and develop a very strong relationship with God, right? But while I'm doing that, I'm also creating and I'm telling God that okay, you know what, you have given me this thing. I want to be able to build bigger platforms for people, mentor the next generation, of course, make a shit ton of money while doing it, but then also show people a different way of approaching their lives and stuff, right? So that's literally what it is for me. And I want to have fun. I don't want to be doing it and I'm serious and oh, aspire to Maguire, inspirational speaker. That's not what I want to do. I want to have fun while I'm doing this thing. It has to be fun for me. So that's literally it. Like, yeah.
Okay, the major part of this interview is about becoming your becoming story, but I want to digress a bit. Um, you are so loud about God.
Mhm.
You're a lover of God. You are in the corporate in the corporate world. I just want us to speak about one of your work and okay, does your faith determine the kind of works you work, the kind of gigs you work on or you contribute in?
So it,
E.g.,
it okay. So
okay,
finish your question. Finish your
okay,
question. EG.
e.g., Shanty Town, which is so loud now. We are one of the top contributor there, and we still have scenes that contain nude and what is might not be acceptable by the Christian or the religious community. What
Mm-hmm.
would you want to say about that?
Okay. So this is what I will say about it. When a banker um has accepted Jesus Christ as his Lord and personal Savior,
Yes, sir.
does the function of his role in the bank change? Is it that when he's counting money, he has to shoot tracks inside and give people? No.
Mm,
Like a lot of Christians miss this because, for instance, once you become a Christian, you feel as if, oh, I have to leave this line of trade that I am doing and become somebody else entirely. Or let's say when a footballer is a Christian, do they like do their style of playing football change? You can only amplify Jesus Christ within the industry you are working in. Now, the fact that I am a Christian does not mean I have to be faith-based on. It,
mm,
it's a it's a it's a presumptuous to assume that the only kind of things that Christians can do are faith-based film. Now, if you are called to do faith-based film, all glory be to God. I was not called to do faith-based film. Like I haven't heard that from God. What I have been called to do is to amplify Him within whatever it is I am doing. Now, for Shantita, with respect to nudity, um, when I was growing up, one of my favorite um, materials that time was Ultimate Power and Barala by Mount Zion Faith Ministry. So my family, I used to love his work at the time. And I think after Shanty Town came out, my family had something to say about oh beauty and actresses and everything. And it was just weird for me, right? Because again, if the story I am telling is about politicians who oppress people and how the downtrodden, the kind of lives they live, should I not tell a story as authentic to that world as much as possible? So if I'm telling stories about prostitutes, or if I'm telling stories about a man that takes advantage of people, should there not be scenes where he is taking advantage of people? So again, the reason why there is nudity in Shantytown is because it was necessary for the story that I wanted to tell, right? It was necessary for the story. If I'm telling the story of a drug cartel and how these things work, the dirty underbelly of Lagos crime and all those kind of things, right? I have to tell it as true to that story world as much as possible. And then that's where nudity enhances the experience. Now, the reason why nudity was necessary is because let me give an example. There was a scene where RMB's character, Chief Fernandez, fondles Nancy Sinne when she was coming from just like sleeping with his son out. He was about sneaking out of the house. Now, after that scene, the moment RMB picks up in those card, right, in that scene where in that gentleman's club for the elite, you as an audience, you are already afraid for her because you know that that man is a sick bastard. The reason why you are afraid is because you have seen what he did with a girl. If he didn't do that with her, that fear would not be there. Do you understand? And then if we show him just suddenly rape Inedo, it will seem out of character because okay, this man is a dirty pig. Then why did we not see that character show when he was interacting with Nancy Sime? Like when you write things, you don't just write things out of vibes and inshallah. You write it has to his character has to be consistent. And if you notice, R&B does not see women as human beings, he sees them as objects. When those girls were dancing, his face was deadpan. He was not interested. Like you cannot use sex to catch him. Do you understand? So that's the kind of person he is. That is why even him just touching Nancy Sime like that, in his mind, he's not being aroused. He's just trying to humiliate her, which is what he does. It's a power trip for him. And that is consistent with the kind of person and the kind of character we had established. That was why that one was necessary. What other places do we show nudity? When people were counting drugs, when people count drugs in a cartel, they don't wear anything because they can put what's it called some lines in the pocket and go and maybe sell it outside. So you strip naked, you count at least that is the one we it. And it was necessary for us to do that. Imagine if we didn't do that scene and then suddenly you see Nancy Sime's breast. It's not consistent with the tone of the film that we are trying to tell. And then there was also like there's a reason why films have ratings. This was it was rated sex, drug, violence, and strong language. So it's almost like I'm telling you, come and eat this pepper soup, it's hot. And you come and eat it, and you're telling me why is the pepper soup hot and has pepper inside. But you were warned before time. And then you still come and you are still come. Like, if you didn't want to encounter these things, then do not consume the material. So it's a weird, like I said, that's how I approach it. I don't approach it as, oh, because I'm a Christian and I'm in the film industry, I have the only kind of stories I can tell are faith-based stories. No, that doesn't. I have to show it's the same thing with like the excellent spirit of Daniel. Sorry, when you hear of Daniel, was Daniel. Who was Daniel serving? Nebuchadnezzar. Who is Nebuchadnezzar? An idol worshiper. Why did Daniel say no? I'm not serving you. He didn't do that. Why did he? Because he was called to shine light there. Was there any part in the Bible before, like in Daniel's story, where before he got thrown into the lions den, he said, "Thus saith the Lord," and serve God. He was just doing. He had an excellent spirit. That again. That's how I view the mission I have been called to do. Plain and simple. Is to shine for God's excellence and cause His influence within this industry. That is
that was so. That was it. That's it. Thank you so much for that clarification. As a young generation that we are coming up, trying to become something, we are doing a lot. Even in Nigeria, being in Nigeria itself is a lot where we don't have where the economics principle play a lot of role. When it says resources are scarce in Nigeria, it is scarce big time. So how will you advise us to become and to reach our peak as creatives, as entrepreneurs, as people that have this big dream? You know, some of us even hear from God and we are scared that is it even possible in this Nigeria? I will be this. You had a lot of courage and probably you had a lot of friends around you. So probably host, what would you suggest to us we go about it?
So I didn't have a lot of friends. I just had like 2, 3 friends that were really very good friends. Like, you know, when I was telling you about my 2014 and how life was hard for me, there was a particular friend I had. His name is Stanley Bender. He's a comic book artist. He was drawing sketches for me free to put on shirts and for me to sell the shirts so that I could survive. I wasn't giving Stanley like a dime.
Wow. Yeah, that kind of friend.
You understand?
I'm sorry to cut you, sir. Please, I've interviewed quite a number of people, and everybody I've interviewed has told me someone about a friend that, in fact, I interviewed a Forbes 30 under 30, Abisola, and Abisola was telling me that she didn't want to apply for Forbes 30. It was a friend that said, you're applying for this thing. And she said she had to do it reluctantly because of her friend. I think friendship is really very important in this race of becoming.
Because you can't, like, you were not created to exist alone. It's the same thing like when the Bible talks about like being the light of the world. You cannot shine alone by yourself, right? You need people to shine because let's say for instance, if you are a candlestick, you need a support that will prop you up before you see. Do you understand? You need people that would maintain your life. You need to be around that kind of environment. The people it was someone who introduced me to my first mentor, and it was this same Stanley who introduced me to James Omoko. So that like, and these were the two friends, literally, that I had. And then the person who introduced me to Sanchez, when I came to Lagos for service, I stayed in his house for 4 years. He's one of my longest friends. His name is Omo X. I stayed in his house for 4 years. He didn't give me any drama. He didn't give me any hassle for 4 good years until I was able to have saved enough to move to my own place. Just like again, just two good friends can make a whole lot of difference. But in the midst of these friends, of course, there were moments where I was depressed, feeling sad, and all those kind of things. And then to answer your question, like, what advice will I give? I would say relentlessly pursue whatever goal that has been set before you. Relentlessly pursue it. Be committed to becoming good at it. Then relentlessly pursue it. That's that's literally, and then have a strategy. And then hope is not a strategy. Like, even after God got what had come, in those periods where I wasn't working, I was developing materials. And it was one of the materials I developed that when the opportunity to meet XYZ person came and the person was like, okay, send me a script sample. I was like, how many script samples do you want? Oh, send me one. I will send one. If you want three, I will send three. If you want different genres, I will send it. Because again, like I said, I had prepared for this moment. So you have to be committed to getting better. You have to have a strategy and you have to pursue it relentlessly. Because let's look at it like this. If, for instance, you want to get into the business of catfish farming, you would have to study it and study it well. And then you start. When you start, business will not just be very good. But from certain mistakes you've made, and just by staying consistently on that path, you would understand the business more. And then before you know, you will start turning a profit. And before you know, in 3, 4, 5 years, you become a small authority in that field. And from there, you can scale up. For any business, like literally, if you decide to become a fish farmer, it's the same thing. Sorry, a chicken farmer, it's the same thing. Snail farmer, it's the same thing. Whatever business, a programmer, a code writer, it's the same thing. Like, if you give time, the law of 10,000 hours, if you give time to something relentlessly, you would be good at it. It's a universal law. It's the same. Do you get? So if you are giving that time to the thing you say you love and you are committed to becoming better and you have a strategy, I don't see how you can fail. I don't see how you can fail. It's just a matter of time. But I don't see how you can fail. And then when I say be committed to it, it's very easy for us to get distracted these days because of social media, and then we are taking our eyes away from the goal. I'll give you an example. Because I've read engineering, there were people in my class who, after school, they got a good job, they started driving cars, they were getting married. Imagine me, who I know that the goal that God has set before me is script writing, comparing my journeys to those people. It doesn't make any sense. Because if you are doing script writing, you have to start from the bottom of the ladder. You will not just start earning a lot. So imagine if I'm with the 60K for 30 minutes script I was earning at the time. I'm looking at this one, I'm comparing myself with them. I would be frustrated with my journey. I would hate myself. So relentlessly pursuing the goal, the object before you means don't take your eye away from here. If at all you are going to look for inspiration. Don't look to be jealous and frustrated at your goal. Do you understand? Be like, yes, use that person as a point of contact. I like that thing about you. By the time I get money, I don't get car like that. But you know what? Let me go back on my grind. You have to do that. You have to not take your eye, and you have to understand that our journeys are individual. So even if I'm a scriptwriter and I see another scriptwriter being successful, I cannot be jealous of that person because I do not know what he does. I do not know how he has suffered. I do not know what his path is on. I can only talk about the path I am on, and I have to focus on that my path, and I have to pursue it. That's my advice. Yeah, that I can give. Yeah.
Wow, you are so loaded. Wow.
You're welcome.
Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much for your time. I'm blessed. I said earlier I'm blessed, but indeed I really mean it. In all sincerity, I'm blessed, and I have a paradigm shift. I'm uplifted to do more, and Thank you so much, sir.
My name is Mr. Xavier Ighorodje, writer, producer, showrunner, director. I'm the creator of Shanty Town. I'm the co-creator of Covenant, which shows on Mnet Africa Magic Showcase 151 every day, Monday to Friday, from 8 o'clock to 8 p.m. I'm also the creator, head writer, and showrunner of Big Book of Lies, which will be coming out on Accelerate TV shortly. And yeah, you are listening to INTALK with Tmod Mowale.